What's up everybody and welcome to the very first episode of Skyrim Special Edition Mods Weekly. Now I'm sure you've heard of a Mods Weekly series before. Basically this is a series where I'm going to show you some of the best mods to come out for Skyrim Special Edition on Xbox One, PS4, and PC every single week. Obviously the game just came out, so the modding scene's in actually a little bit of a weird scenario. Only a handful of mod authors actually do have access to the mod tools, so for that reason you're going to see a lot of overlap in this initial episode. Although that does not take away from the quality, there are still very good mods coming out, so in this series I'm going to just basically show you them. If you do enjoy the content, I really encourage you to consider subscribing. I'm going to be doing a lot of Skyrim Special Edition content moving forward, especially for Xbox users, and I do have a special video coming out for PS4 users in a few days. With all that being said, let's get right into it. So first and foremost, I want to show you guys the Forgotten City. I've talked about this mod so many times now. I actually did a live stream of this yesterday. Basically, it's a massive DLC sized quest mod. It's really one of the only kind of big mods out for Skyrim Special Edition right now. More or less what this adds in is an ancient dwarven city. You're going to go down there and kind of trying to save somebody's brother or whatever it is. But in the city, all the NPCs are fully voiced. There's a bunch of quests. There's places to explore. There's one primary quest that you're trying to do in order to help the people, but all around it's extremely polished. It's actually won a lot of different awards like a ModDB award, a Nexus award, etc. You don't really have to be a high level to start this, only having to be level 5, so I think it's actually a really good way to jump back into Skyrim and kind of spice up your game a little bit. I'm sure a lot of you guys have played through the vanilla game of Skyrim many times, so this is a great good quest mod that you can kind of hold you over hopefully for the next few days, maybe even a week, until we get some of the other quest mods. And this is actually maybe not the best one to start off with, because this is actually probably one of the best quest mods out right now, so definitely worth a download and just checking out, even just to explore the city a little bit. So next up we have kind of the #1 magic mod for Skyrim. So the mod in question is Apocalypse, and more or less what this adds in is just a ton of different spells into the Skyrim world. So it's going to be 155 new spells total, 31 spells per different school of spells. All these are pretty balanced and like they're nothing crazy or super outlandish. They fit into the world pretty well, and honestly after you install this mod and play around with it for a little bit, you don't realize how it is a mod. It almost feels like this was just part of the vanilla game, because the mod and the spells are so good and polished that there just is a lot of quality here. So in this video I just chose 3 spells that I thought were kind of interesting and kind of on the mod page to show you guys. So that little fireball you saw me throwing is called Bolide. Basically it just throws a fireball, and the farther it goes it'll get bigger and bigger and cause more and more damage. Then we have Fabricate, which is literally just going to let you create a chair, table, or other furniture object wherever you are. You could also create a bridge with this to try and cross somewhere you otherwise couldn't. And then last but not least, my favorite out of the 3 I show you is the Volcano, which basically places down a mini volcano, damaging people directly above it and then having little sparks fly on people around it. All around, it's a very cool mod, especially if you're a mage in Skyrim. On top of that, enemies will start using some of these spells, so it'll just spice up your game in general. Definitely worth a download even if you don't plan on using the magic yourself. So next up we have iNeed. If you ever played survival in Fallout 4, this more or less adds in a lot of those features into Skyrim. So that being food, water, and sleep as various factors that are going to affect your character. So as you may have guessed, you're going to be hungry, thirsty, or fatigued. Basically to quell all of these, you're going to, eat, sleep, or drink. And then as a result of this, it obviously is adding a lot of challenge to the game and basically giving some purpose to some of the different objects and items in the game. You're going to have to play around these needs, because if they get too bad, and the way they work is they have 5 different levels, so you're going to be well, so that means you just ate and you're full and feeling pretty good. You're actually going to get a minor buff to your character, but then there are 4 other ones. One is just kind of a normal one where it's not going to give you a buff or a penalty, but then there's 3 bad ones. So if you refuse to eat, drink, or sleep, you're actually going to start getting debuffs to your character, and basically you're just going to be all around a weaker individual, and it's going to make playing the game quite a bit harder. The mod is definitely pretty fair. Basically you're only going to need to eat or drink 2 to 3 times a day and then sleep once a day. I don't think that's asking too much of a character. It definitely doesn't feel like you have to go out of your way too often. You just kind of play the normal game, and then as you are doing things, you're going to eat something, and then at the end of the day you'll probably just take a nice rest as you go back to your base to kind of recoup. One feature I actually do really like about this is heavier food will count differently. So if you eat like a big steak, you're going to be fuller for longer. On the flip side, if you eat a bunch of smaller things, it won't actually fill you up as much, and it'll kind of spread it out, and normally you'll periodically be hungry again. All around a very cool mod, and definitely going to be one of those mods that if you like the features, you'll download it. Not going to be for everyone, but I think it's a good way to spice up your game. So next up we have Ordinator. It's kind of hard to make a video about this because it's just such a massive mod. More or less what it does is add in 400 brand new perks into Skyrim. So this is going to allow you to have a lot more depth to your character. You're going to have very defined perk trees as you go down some of the different skills. A weird glitch I was having with this is I was getting a ton of lag when going through the skill system. So if you're watching the video, you're seeing I'm only getting like 14 to 15 FPS. I have no idea why. It was still very playable, but just kind of a weird glitch I did have. But more or less this mod is going to make you a more defined individual. So if you're a warrior character, you're going to have perks that are going to be more attuned to that and kind of block you out of some of the other paths. All around a very cool mod, a good one to just download and start a new game with. It really is a big improvement over the vanilla perk system, and all around I think just makes the game a little bit more fun. So last but not least, we have Wildcat. As you can tell, this has actually been the same mod author 3 times. So Ordinator, Apocalypse, and Wildcat are all by this guy, Sion. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Very big mod author, makes very quality mods, as you could tell. And all around, all these mods are meant to improve and overhaul your game. Well, last but not least, we have Wildcat, the combat overhaul. So this mod's going to do a few things. First and foremost, it's going to improve the combat AI. So enemies are going to just be better at combat. They're going to block when they're supposed to block, do powered attacks when they're supposed to do powered attacks, etc., etc. On top of that, it actually adds in a injury system. So when a certain character falls between a certain health threshold, and this applies to you and enemies, you will get certain debuffs. So for example, if you injure an enemy or yourself get injured in the spine, you're going to have kind of a paralysis effect and you're going to take double damage from bashes and power attacks until you heal yourself up. There's different injuries for your arm, chest, head, leg, and more or less what the kind of ideology behind this mod is that when an enemy or you get an advantage over the opponent, it's going to snowball into something much more. So if you get a good first hit off and kind of break through them and injure them, they're going to be at a huge disadvantage against you, as that's supposed to be the way it works in real life. If you get stabbed in the leg by a sword, you're probably going to have a harder time fighting off the enemy, even if you are kind of far from dying or still have half of your health left. It also has a few other features like just a flat out increased lethality, so you're just going to do more damage and enemies are going to be doing more damage to you. And when you attack people from behind or when they're casting a spell or shooting an arrow, you're going to be doing more damage because they're considered a vulnerable target. And actually one of my favorite changes is there's actually time blocking now. So at one point in this video, somebody tries to attack me and I land a timed block, so it'll actually stagger them and push them back, and it'll allow me to get a few hits off on them. All around a very cool mod, making combat in Skyrim just a lot more interesting and more fun. Definitely worth a download, I think, although again making the game a little bit harder, so it has to be something that's up your alley. That's gonna wrap it up for this first episode of Skyrim Special Edition Mods Weekly though. I do hope you enjoyed. Again, this should be a weekly thing every Sunday with Fallout 4 Mods Weekly. As always, I thank you guys for watching. I do hope you enjoyed again, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.